Welcome back. So we just finished talking about the journey of the blood through one side of the heart, the right side. Now I want to talk about the left side of the heart. So just to kind of recap, we just passed through the right side of the heart. We left through the pulmonary trunk and then diverged to either pulmonary artery. So now we have the two pulmonary arteries going to each lung. At the lung, as a reminder, we pick up oxygen. So we breathe in oxygen, the blood picks it up at the lungs and comes back. Now it's on its journey back. It is going to pass through these two structures here. Well, these vessels, these blood vessels and these blood vessels, from either lung, it's going to come back, and those are the pulmonary veins. The pulmonary veins. So they're going to come back through the pulmonary veins, and again, pulmonary, when you hear pulmonary, think lungs. So they're going to come back through the pulmonary veins and enter the left atrium. So again, we have four chambers of the heart. We have the two atria and the two ventricles. So now we're entering the left atrium. Again, left based on the person whose heart it is. So if it's my heart, this is my left side. So this is my left atrium and left ventricle. We're going to go from the left atrium into the left ventricle. And as we go into the left ventricle, we're going to pass through another valve. This valve between the right or the left atrium and the left ventricle, that valve is called the mitral valve. The mitral valve, also known sometimes as the bicuspid valve. But the mitral valve, again, is there, or all the valves are there, to prevent backflow. So when the blood naturally flows from the left atrium into the left ventricle, that left ventricle is going to contract. And when it contracts, it's going to close the mitral valve and open up this valve over here called the aortic valve. So it's going to push open the aortic valve. Once the blood passes through, it's going to snap shut that aortic valve. And we call it the aortic valve because we're entering this new blood vessel, and this is the largest blood vessel in our body. It is the, let me clear off this a little bit. It is the aorta. The aorta. Also notice, again, the red and blue. Red means that it has oxygen, blue means it doesn't. So in this case, the blood just came from the lungs, so it's rich in oxygen, passed through the pulmonary veins, left atrium, through the mitral valve, into the left ventricle. The ventricles contract and push the blood through the aortic valve and into the aorta, where it will then go to the rest of the body. Now, at the rest of the body, it's going to drop off that oxygen, pick up CO2, which is a waste product of the cells, and it's going to come back. And that's where it comes through these two vessels here, and they both feed into the right atrium. So I'll label this again, right atrium. So the blood leaves through the aorta, it goes to the body. From the body, it drops off the oxygen and it picks up CO2, comes back to the heart, and it will enter through the inferior vena cava. So it enters from the lower half of the body into the inferior vena cava. From the upper half of the body, let's say the head and maybe the upper arms, it will enter through the superior vena cava. So now the blood is coming from the body into the right atrium, and the process begins again. So just to kind of recap the whole process, if we start at the right atrium, we follow a drop of blood. It's from right atrium through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. It gets pumped through the pulmonary valve into the pulmonary trunk, splits off into the pulmonary arteries, goes to the lungs to pick up oxygen, comes back through the pulmonary veins. It feeds into the left atrium. It then travels down through the mitral valve into the left ventricle. We squeeze, it closes the mitral valve, opens up the aortic valve. So it passes through the aortic valve, through the aorta, goes to the rest of the body, comes back deoxygenated, and it enters from the lower half through the inferior vena cava, through the upper half, the superior vena cava, and the blood then enters the right atrium, and the process begins again. So I know that's a lot to take in. We'll probably review this when I get back, but hopefully you guys got a lot out of that video. I will attach the notes in Canvas, and yeah, that's it.